I want to begin by welcoming you all to this briefing on the product availability and prices of essential commodities. And I do hope that you all had a blessed Christmas, although you said it was too short. Government continues to be very much concerned about the general increases of prices of essential products, which necessitated urgent meetings with various sector players during the past few weeks, including the recent meeting between my ministry, the bakery and meat industries this last week. The meetings have continued with the industry players and the National Competitiveness Commission even this morning. I want to acknowledge the fact that a number of players, who include manufacturers, retailers, importers, etc., have wantonly been increasing their prices. There are equally a good number of players in the same sector who see sense in maintaining fair prices to the consumer. These players have demonstrated their appreciation of the importance of the consumer and not focusing on just high profits in the short term. Government appreciates this gesture of patriotism. As a result of my engagement with private sector players referred above, we have seen that some manufacturers and retail outlets have heeded our call to adjust prices of essential products and avoid charging very high markups. I would like to acknowledge and appreciate producers and retailers who have responded positively on the prices of products such as bread, beef, chicken, and cooking oil, whilst discussions on medium to long-term solutions are being worked out. While my ministry continues to engage and recognize these positive steps, we again note that there are still some manufacturers and retailers who, in their quest to profiteer, are acting irresponsibly and charging higher prices using a three-tier pricing system and failing to display prices of their goods. I call on these players to desist from the malpractice and join others who are already complying. I have issued notice before that those who do not comply risk having their operating license withdrawn, and government will not hesitate to take these measures. However, government still wants to continue to engage the various sector players with the hope that we'll find common ground. My ministry, working together with the various government agencies, including the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe, is continuing with the surveys on prices and availability of essential products to make sure that all players are complying with what we agreed. That prices should be adjusted downward while we continue to engage and agree on the pricing models applicable along the various value chains. I have in the meantime instructed the Competition and Tariff Commission to urgently look at possible collusion on pricing by players in industry. The National Competitiveness Commission is already working with stakeholders on the cost build-up in the value chains of essential products. This exercise will help us identify culprits within the value chains who are responsible for exorbitant markups which result in high prices of end products. The exercise by the National Competitiveness Commission will also help us deal with the root problem that we are seeing on prices, rather than punish everyone. We don't believe it's good for us to punish 10 for the sin of 1. But for us to be able to identify that one amongst the 10, we need to carry out an exercise, which is what the National Competitiveness Commission is carrying out at the moment. Going through the various value chains, assessing the cost build-ups, and also looking at the various markups that are being raised by the various players, so that in the process, it's very easy for them to say the problem is with ABC. What we have noticed is sometimes people give a blanket statement to say retailers are charging exorbitant prices, but they are not all of them doing that. The same applies to producers. They are not all of them doing that. But how then do we end up identify the culprit? It's only when we come up with some scientific exercise to go through the cost build-ups, through the value chains, and be able to identify where we are experiencing problems. And I'm sure you will give them support as they carry out these exercises. My ministry will continue to engage as we build our economy. I call upon all players in business to act responsibly, and remember that whatever action we might take, it is the consumer who will ultimately be hurt, and my ministry will not allow the consumer to be shortchanged. It is my hope that as we continue to engage each other, we will see a positive trend of fair pricing and availability of essential products on the market. My ministry's door is open for consumers and other bodies to inform on malpractices in business. Let us all work to make Zimbabwe great again. And to members of the media fraternity who are here, you are our partners in addressing these challenges. I call upon you to report facts. I repeat, to report facts. But all the same, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Minister will take some questions if there are any from the members of the press. Do we have any questions? No. They are happy.
There's one.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. My name is Tamuka, like I said, from the Financial Express. Honorable Minister, I have a concern. If we drop back to the principles of economics, according to Adam Smith, we say the value of products are determined by the cost of production, isn't it? So, as the Minister, what are you doing to address the fundamentals, like the producers in the value chain are complaining of the forex shortages? So putting a price cap or threatening to take or withdraw their operating license is not the fundamental issue. What is your ministry doing to address the forex shortages? I'm concerned RBZ issued that they are allocating weekly allowances to the producers, but they are not meeting the demands of these producers. Hence, the prices of money are reducing. So, what is your ministry doing to address these fundamentals before putting a price cap on the cost of production?
Yes.
Before the Minister answers, do we have any other questions so that you can respond to the two questions? Yes.
I love you from I want to know, Honorable Minister, are you not likely to maybe come up with a legislation that will see retailers and manufacturers not increasing their commodities for wanton, like you say, maybe putting up a legislation?
Okay. Thank you.
I think the lady was looking at. Yes. Yes.
Honorable Minister, today during the inauguration ceremony of Vice President, the President said dialogue is the best way forward. At the moment, legislation is not the way to go. And when you are saying you are going, operating licenses might be withdrawn, is it not in a way maybe going to compromise some of maybe the dialogue moving forward?
Thank you. So, Minister, what the three questions? I don't know whether you like it.
Now you repeat one by one as I answer now.
All right. Yes, the question from the gentleman from the Financial Express had to do with the cost of production. He says the value of products are determined by the cost of production, and he highlighted some challenges that the producers are facing, one of which is foreign currency. And he was asking what the ministry is doing to address some of these issues. He mentioned foreign currency, and also he made reference to capping of prices, whether the government intends to cap prices, which government is not. So he wants to know what is government doing to address the issue of the costs of production.
Thank you very much. It's a very valid question. The whole purpose of us meeting here is in itself a demonstration that government is not saying don't increase prices. Government is saying don't increase price when it is not justified. Therefore, where there are genuine fundamentals affecting business, we will respect that. In any case, the whole idea of this dialogue is for us to understand the constraints that are affecting the industry players so that we can take action. When we, at our first meeting, we discovered that the oil expressors were not getting sufficient forex to get the raw material for them to crush into cooking oil. And as a result of that, the Reserve Bank intervened and came up with other facilities to assist in the sourcing of the required forex. But what we have seen is that you have three producers who are actually just producing the same product, but the other one is selling for $1 and the other for $1.50 and the other $2. And that in that case you want to find out what is that has changed to make to have a different situation in the other two producers. The same example that I've used again, that you might have three retailers getting the same product from the same producers, but the prices are different. And again, that's an issue where we want to find out what are the reasons behind. And therefore, we can only do that by coming together and carrying out an objective assessment. Yes, admittedly, we do have a problem of forex, which is really a national problem, but I'd like to admit that the Reserve Bank is doing as much as it can to ensure that there is this problem. And I've been talking to the Reserve Bank governor about an hour ago when he was explaining some of the facilities that they are trying to put in place to make sure that the much needed forex is made available to the producers. But at the end of the day, it's a lesson on us that as we go forward, we do not have to rely on the Reserve Bank governor going out of his way to provide the forex. We must generate the forex. We must export. We must invest in agriculture. We must produce. And therefore, if we do the right things in terms of production, in terms of building efficiencies, we should be able, on one hand, to reduce our cost of production, and at the same time not to rely on imports. So there are a number of things that we have to do, and some of them which we have already started to do. But just to conclude in answering you is that government is very keen to support local producers in any way, be it in terms of giving them the forex or also any other support to ensure that we are able to produce and meet the demands of our economy, and also, if possible, we should also promote exports again to bring in the much needed foreign currency. So we believe that by getting together in terms of dialogue, that is the only way we can understand how the various players are being affected. And you then apply your markup. So that is what we are looking at. Is your markups justified? And also, what is the cost builder? Probably there are things that we can do something about it. And then we'll take measures. And where these costs, where we cannot do anything about it, we will probably understand how the producer government quite a while ago appreciated that in our economy we are experiencing high costs in terms of production, and we, as a result of that realization, and also making comparison with our regional trading partners, government then decided to establish the competitiveness, the National Competitiveness Commission, which amongst other functions is really for them to identify cost builder, the cost drivers, and be able to recommend to government in terms of policy formulation as we address our cost structure. The whole idea is for us to be competitive. We can only be competitive if we are pricing in a way that doesn't outcompete the products that we produce. So pricing is important, quality is equally important, and therefore the National Competitiveness Commission is addressing the issues that we have met with. As another I've said also answers that. That is not the intention. We don't believe that is the way to go. We believe that we must engage, and that we must dialogue. But I did mention, to answer you the other question that you said, if you are now withdrawing the licenses, is that not regulation? What we are saying is that, if you heard me correctly, we don't want to punish 10 for the sin of 1. So where we have an isolated case, just to give us an example, where you are you have 10 producers, but you are the only one charging $3. When the effects are there to demonstrate that others are charging in terms of what it costs them and a reasonable markup. And then if your markup is 100%, obviously it's unreasonable. And it's on the basis of that unreasonableness that we believe that you are not playing ball, and that you are actually in the process of shortchanging consumers, shortchanging everybody in the value chain, and therefore we believe that in that regard action must be taken. So we don't believe it's across the board. We have those isolated cases that I've mentioned, but sometimes you cannot identify them unless you carry out an objective assessment. And therefore, in the end, I think where we have discovered in the past, the moment we were getting closer to identify the culprit, then the culprit came forward and said, look, I give up. And therefore, it was more like people coming on their own, and I'm glad, as I said, that a number of players have heeded the call that, look, let's not talk about license withdrawal, let's see players conforming, and we would like to encourage that. There was another I've said.
Minister, you've spoken about dialogue, especially with regards to issues to do with those that are in the baking industry. But already today there's no bread in Chimboli. There was no bread on 25, 26 and until today. Are these genuine shortages or the industry is actually reacting to the steps that you've already taken?
Okay.
All right, Honorable Minister, I'm sure you agree with me that the National Competitive Commission and the engagements, they are not an overnight process. So between today and until then, until we are done with the engagements, what are the measures that will be taken so that we make sure that the common man has got bread, has got meat on the back?
That's why we are saying there is a whole range of products that we can look at. But at the moment, we are just focusing on the basic commodities. These are the ones that affect the common man. So we are not looking at everything. We are focusing immediately on the basic commodities. Your question, there was no price control as far as bread is concerned. We had a discussion with the various players in that value chain, and they agreed that they were going to go back to the old price, and that they were going to engage the National Competitiveness Commission. And I understand from the information I got earlier on, they are coming to see the ministry next week with what they have recommended, and as a sector. So that's news to me to say the areas that where there are shortages. I just came out of a supermarket and there was plenty of bread there. So it could be some isolated, but one wants to find out, and I think the Consumer Council probably can also answer that. But where I stay, I passed through. I wasn't looking for bread. I was looking for something. And then I went through and found that there were a lot of bread around. But we will investigate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Minister. I think the question on when does this dialogue end, perhaps what the members of the media might want to know that meetings have been going on and they continue. And with agency, the members here present, they were attending a meeting just before this session.